had a cousin who was a doctor called Dr. Bob, and I guess I got named after him. And he was in the North Country in St. Lawrence and had been a family physician. And over the years, he became the radiologist for all of St. Lawrence County. We always looked up to him with a little bit of awe. I lived at home, rode a bike to school, and a little bit proud of the fact that with a couple of scholarships and with odd time jobs, including a weekend job in a grocery store where they wanted me every holiday too. Not a high paying job, but it was a steady one. I ended up with more money in the bank after at the end of college than I had to begin. And not many people can do that, at least not today. Union College is part of a university which includes Albany Medical School and Albany Law School. And that was almost automatic. And I wanted to go someplace in addition if I could get in. And I sort of followed the footsteps of a fellow who was about a year ahead of me in junior high school, Union College, and he went to Yale. So Yale was one of the places I applied to sort of at the last minute. And I told him, I said, you know, I'm already accepted in medical school. I would like to go a little further in a place like Yale if I could. And I applied to a couple other places at the same time. And I didn't think I had much chance of getting in. I still don't know how I got in. And 3 days after I had my interview, they accepted me. Yale was different than most other schools. They were built essentially on the English concept. We had no exams that we had to take except the national boards in the second and fourth year. We didn't have to go to class if we didn't want to. Nobody kept track of us. We were given exams if we wanted them. And we were encouraged or encouraged. Now this was also during, see, I went to school in September of '41 and Pearl Harbor in December. So we lost one member of our class who decided to go in the Army. But most of us were committed, and we were also told that we would have 4 years of medical school and 3. Actually, we went there in September, we were told we'd have 5 years and 4. But then they changed, and then to the time of my second year, or I guess it's almost finished the second year, we went into uniform in the medical school, had a small summer session in the Army, and then were demobilized temporarily, put on leave to finish medical school. The advantage of medical school, from my point of view, was that it also paid all my tuition and all my room and board. I graduated medical school. I was an intern. I chose internship in surgery. They didn't have any general internship at Yale. And the internship, and actually we were in the Carlisle Army area for our introduction to the Army. And the day that I was supposed to go under the machine gun fire, the atomic bomb went off. In the Army, we were given another 9 months, and I spent 9 months of that in Seattle, Fort Lewis. And I was the admitting officer for a 5,000 bed hospital. And as such, I saw a lot of people coming back from Asia with malaria. They would stop their medication on the way, come by boat, and after 3 weeks or so, a lot of them came down with acute malaria. And I had a very good crew working with me in the accident ward, and I only had to work 8 hours a day, so I would also spend another 8 hours a day volunteering in the hospital. And I was following all the patients that came in, so I had a pretty good idea. I figured I was about 90% accurate in my diagnoses and was able to check stuff like that. The only place I had trouble was telling a colonel or lieutenant colonel what he should do when he was my senior officer. You know how that goes. And in about March of that year, we went in Seattle, I think in September of 43, or 44 it would have been, yeah. And then in 45, by that time Germans had signed this, so when I was assigned to Germany, and I was the Third Army, Patton's Third Army, in intelligence. I wasn't responsible for any of the intelligence, but I was responsible for the people who were responsible for intelligence. So I was, for example, the physician for the interpreters at Nuremberg. And I was the physician for all the judges in Dachau trials. And so I had some insights from that, what was going on there. But I was in maybe about 6 months in Germany. I was in the Munich area. And we were in a very elite headquarters, stormtroopers headquarters. I talked to the American officer in charge of the Munich area and said, what are you going to do with all the families that are coming over here, medically speaking? And I talked myself into a job taking care of the American dependents. And I didn't realize until Bombay just recently how important that experience may have been to me here in Delaware, because I was responsible for 800 families and their servants. I was able to recruit another German doctor who had been in the United States as a prisoner, spoke good English, and I had a team, including a technician. I would say I kept up primary care till about 1965, when I became the new chief of medicine for the combined hospitals. I was pretty active, however, in the development of the merger. And did a lot of pushing to get it through. Also, one of the other things I did, which I've realized recently might be of interest to others, in the early 60s, probably 62 I would guess, I was chosen by the Medical Society to work with several people. We became a vice president of Blue Cross nationally, a vice president of the labor union nationally for General Motors, and vice president of General Motors were here to convince us as physicians to accept what they had already promised their workers, that they would have an insurance thing that would pay home office visits and things of this sort, and some of their drugs. And their method of control I thought was poor, and I tried to stop it and I couldn't. There was too much political pressure, I think, from the legislature and everybody else, and Governor Brown down. But I don't know how that happened. All I know is that those of us who felt that this would not work were correct. And I became chief of medicine in '66 for the 3 hospitals. And that time we had to learn how to disagree with the administration. They looked upon 3 hospitals as 3 separate piles of bricks. And we in the medical, in particular Dr. Lang and I, could understand that we were really a merged group, even though we were not in one spot. And that we needed that for our residency programs and things of that type. But I was only part-time. I did have another office in the hospital at that time, and they gave me a secretary. But I didn't get any pay. And in '72, I think it was, we got a full-time medical person. I was willing to run, but didn't want to take it on full-time. I'm going to do some other things. We were trying to get people, the administrators, to understand that we were one unit. For example, in medicine, each hospital administrator came to me and said, well, we want to know when you're going to assign doctors to take care of the clinic patients in our hospital. We said we aren't going to do that. And we held them off. We said we're going to have one clinic at the Delaware, and people will be assigned there. We won't do it hospital by hospital. And they are sort of shocked that we could see that and they couldn't. And of course, they each like to have their own. The administrators stayed on, each one is his own hospital, and expected things to go pretty much as they were. And we said that isn't what we did, what we merged for. Particularly since we were trying to develop a residency program that was going downhill. We had a hard time getting American residents and things of this sort. So I think that was one of the first standoffs we had that we won on. This was not driven, most of the mergers have been driven by looking for economic benefit, because you're saving money by combining overheads. Whether that